Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
I'm running a retreat in 2025 in Dysart, North Wales. Please send your email and nominate yourself or another person to alarmcalling@mac.com. For all you breast survivors out there, please come and join me for the Treat Retreat in Wales, January 2025.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio. And this interview I'm very excited about because, first of all, it includes a passion of mine, which is music and great music, but also motivation, positivity, and hope, as well as a very, very good cause in a great way. And so with no further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Jules Peters from The Alarm and Love, Hope, Strength. How are you?
Jane, it's lovely to be here.
Oh, man, lovely to have you. And I just got to say, I think, first of all, it's great that you're here to do what you're doing for other women and other people around the world, as well as your husband. And, you know, you guys are great musicians, but I think this is even better. So tell me a little bit about your guys' organization. Tell the listeners a little bit about it and kind of your story.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Dean. I'm the keyboard player of The Alarm, but I'm also married to the lead singer of The Alarm, and we've been together since 1986. Our life has been dominated by rock and roll, and we've been really fortunate and privileged to tour, most of our married life together. But when I was 29 and Mike was 35, Mike discovered some lumps in his neck, and it was pretty. It blew our world. I can only say Mike was diagnosed with leukemia in 1995, and we went from having no responsibility other than rock and roll and touring the world to suddenly dealing as two quite young people having to deal with a very traumatic cancer diagnosis. Back then, leukemia was a bit of a death sentence. I'm pleased to report that with all the development of drugs, that now people who get diagnosed with leukemia can hopefully look forward to a much happier and longer future. But I think it definitely characterized our lives, changed our lives in many ways. Both Mike and I have been raised in a small town in North Wales, not far away from Manchester and Liverpool. We were raised to be upbeat and positive people. But I think, a cancer diagnosis when you're young can go either way. You can either feel very angry, why me? Mike, however, is a very positive, upbeat guy, and he's been very easy to be married to. And I think we just decided that not why me. We're just going to work with this. This is part of who we are, not to panic, to take each day at a time. And I'm very fortunate that Mike, he just celebrated his 65th birthday in America last week.
Nice.
And all thanks to, a lot of his attitude, I think, has helped, but also undoubtedly he's received some fantastic care here in the UK, all for free via the National Health Service. So I think, Mike has grown up as being like the incredible lead singer of The Alarm in America, has been very, very good to us. But he's also known as the man in the camo jacket, the man who wears green. When he was diagnosed with leukemia, he decided to come to America and continue his tour. I wanted him to stay at home and stay near the hospital and concentrate on the treatment. But Mike felt that if he gave up on his music, that would lose his mojo. He needed to keep on being that person who he was, and music is Mike's life. So I had to support him. We all have to deal with these things in life in our own way. And we flew to Boston. I remember it was a very cold day as we got off the plane. I was actually broken. I thought this was the beginning of the end. But Mike consulted a faith healer, which was most unlike him. And she said to him that green was his protective colour. I think really from her point of view, there was a link to star signs because he's a Pisces. But for whatever reason, I didn't believe it. I thought it was a load of old baloney, but Mike believed it, and that's all that we needed. And we landed in Boston. We went straight to an Army outfitters shop, and he kitted himself out in green camo from head to toe, and he never took it off until he was put into spontaneous remission. So, you know, I've always had Mike. Mike is 8 years older than me, and I've always sort of respected the way that he's dealt with life. So then I get diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016, and yeah, you could have knocked me down with a feather. In that kind of naive way, I thought that he'd taken the cancer bullet for our family, which was a ridiculous attitude to have, really. But I grew up around cancer with Mike. You know, like I said, I was a young woman. We didn't have children when Mike was diagnosed. It impacted on everything, our fertility. Would we ever have children? But yeah, I was absolutely devastated when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I never thought it would happen to me. And I had a few why me moments, but of course I had to practice what I preached all those years ago and try and stay positive. And I said to Mike, I said, I don't want you to be all softly with me. I need a bit of tough love. For those of the listeners who maybe have some experience with breast cancer, it can be a very brutal journey. I don't want to say it always is. I don't want to scare people out there, but my story, my journey was pretty brutal. Chemotherapy, hair loss, radiotherapy, complete loss of femininity, you know, brutal breast surgery, rebuilding yourself. And so a lot of what I do is to try and mentor other women going through this process so that I can say, look, you know, I'm here. I never thought I'd get through it. I can help you get through it now. So, yeah, and as I said, 2016, 2017, actually, we came to America again. America, we are both raised in North Wales, but America seems to be where we come to in times of trouble. I've grown up since a very young 19-year-old coming out to the United States. So when I got diagnosed, we'd already planned a month in New York City. So we approached my consultant and said, look, we want to go. We want to get our heads in order. We want to decide how we're going to face up to this. And it did me the world of good. I came away, and by the time I went back a month later to Wales to face the music, it was all rolled out for me that I was going to have chemotherapy. You know, once I'd learned that hopefully the regime that I was going to undertake would save my life, you then start to worry about other things. You know, not everybody, but for me and a lot of women like me, I was very upset about losing my hair. Mike and I both seem to be known for having our hair, and I was devastated at the idea of losing my femininity, and I tried everything to keep it, but I lost my hair, and I managed to get a wig called Trixie Vixie, which was a bit of a Marian Faithfull wig that I waltzed around town. And Mike was an incredible support to me. I thought, this is the test now, after all these years of me going in by his side into chemotherapy and holding his hand through it all, is he going to support me in the same way? Marriage test right there. And I'm happy to say that he's been an incredible support to me. So much so, I think he did raise a few eyebrows in the hospital when he walked into my little room where I was having my chemotherapy with a full entire recording studio. And yes, he recorded an entire album through my 6 months of chemotherapy. But that's how we try and deal with things. You know, no one wants to have to live through cancer treatment, but it's been so much part of our lives. And I'm careful the way I say it, because, you know, not everybody gets through cancer. I'm always conscious of those who haven't made it through. Mike and I have been incredibly lucky, and I think we probably feel like our life has been enhanced going through our respective cancer battles. It makes us very, very clear on what matters in life. We don't have much time for fussing and fighting, and we just are extremely grateful for each day that comes our way.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, first of all, I love the attitude, but I love the honestness, because even the most positive of people, when something like a cancer diagnosis happens, it can definitely bring you down. You know, you could be the most positive person in the world, and it could be, as you put, devastating.
Devastating. Yeah, I always say to people, you know, I feel like my life went from Technicolor, carefree, to, well, as carefree as life is with all the responsibilities that we have, but it definitely went from Technicolor to black and white. And I had to battle hard. That's why I said to Mike, you know, you need to be my tough love guy. If you show me too much soft love, this isn't for everyone. It was just my personality. I would have become quite self-indulgent, I think, and I'd felt very sorry for myself and found it very hard to get out of that pit of self-pity. So he went the completely other way, which was hilarious because it was so out of character for him. And we had a few moments where, I remember one day he came in and he said, right, I need to go into the studio. He was going into the studio with Billy Duffy of The Cult, who also has a side project with Mike called Color Sound. And I love Billy. You know, he always makes me feel really happy. He's great to hang out with. But Mike said, right, you're going to have to get your act together. I've organised for our parents to have the children, and we're going off to Liverpool to the studio. And I was like, I can't, look at the state of me. You know, I looked like a little boiled egg. I had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, no hair. I did not feel like getting my gear on at all. But he just gave me tough love. And he was like, 15 minutes, get your wig on, get your cowboy hat on, get your skinny jeans on. We're going. And I was upset. I cried. I think I threw things at the door as he walked out of my little office. But you know what? It was the best thing for me because we walked into the studio. Billy was there. Billy was so kind to me. Ian McNabb was there from the Icicle Works, and they both like looped their arms into me and scooped me up and took me to the pub. And then I looked back at Mike and he just gave me the thumbs up. And
wow.
I felt a very different person. So I totally understand what it's like to be at the actual brink, because I struggle harder than Mike does. Mike has a very natural positivity, but I try and mentor people to say, just try and step over the doorway. For me, you know, when I approached chemotherapy, I thought I'm going to walk for 5 miles a day. Even though I don't fit, I'm going to put my beanie on. I'm going to put my wig on. And I dragged myself out. And I say to people, please drag yourself out. Because by the time you've walked, I live in a little village. By the time you've walked around the village and interacted with other human beings, all your troubles do start to evaporate slowly. You've shared them. Don't stay in. Don't let it all build up inside. And I carried that on through my journey. You know, I did chemotherapy, like I keep saying, and it was very, very difficult and very scary at times. But by the time I got to radiotherapy, which was relatively the sort of simpler part of the journey, I actually found it more difficult. I walked in, you know, it's a big empty room. All the radiotherapy people are in a little room. You feel very lonely, very insecure. I had to take my wig off to lie there. And I walked out. Mike was waiting for me. I said, I'm going to walk 5 miles to my radiotherapy. And when I walked out, he thought we were going to catch the bus or grab a cab. But I was so upset. I was on the floor. And I said, he said, where are you going? I said, I'm walking home. He said, you can't walk home. That's 10 miles. I said, I have to. Otherwise, I will just collapse in a puddle. So that's what I did. I turned radiotherapy into a journey. I thought, you know, people in Africa probably can't even get radiotherapy. Change the mindset. Think, hey, radiotherapy is a gift. And I thought, I'm not going to drive because it's always difficult to park. I'm going to walk. And so I invited friends, family, and they walked with me. And I walked 10 miles a day, 5 miles to the hospital, 5 miles back. And you know what? It was a brilliant experience. Hilariously, I was quite disappointed to finish my radiotherapy because we only have it within ourselves. Friends and family can help, but you have to flip the switch.
No doubt. Yeah. No doubt about it. And, you know, everybody does have a different journey, as you're saying. I have to say, what a great husband that basically did what you needed instead of who he needed to be. And I think that's a very important thing in any relationship. And I get it too. Like sometimes people need tough love to just like kick them in the butt so that they trigger their own thinking. It's not like you're forcing them to do something. It's just it's almost like kicking a car into gear, you know. It's like,
absolutely, that's how it was for me. Yeah. And like I say, you know, I never want to come across as, oh, aren't we so good, we're so positive, you know, that can be really annoying. It's not that at all. It's just that is the way it works for us. And when I see people getting upset and sad, I just try and talk them through it and say, it's fine to be upset and sad. It's fine to have those
Mm-hmm.
moments. I've had millions of them. I still get them now because there's checkups and there's, I've gone on to have a very scary year with Mike just recently in 2022, and he relapsed when I least thought he would. I thought he was out of the woods. I never thought I was going to have to worry about him again, but I was very, very wrong. And 2022, we finished a massive UK tour, and he developed pneumonia, which is always something we've been warned, that he needs to avoid at all costs. I think it was kind of swerving out of COVID. And he was a very poorly boy for about 6 months. We eventually got him into hospital, and he was rebuilt by our fantastic local hospital. But it was difficult, and he's got a little bit of a cough. We've just been away for a week together, and he develops a cough. I have to learn very much as, I've been the patient and I've been the carer, and the same for him. And I have to learn to switch off the worry button. And I struggle with that. And Mike tries to teach me to just switch it off. He's like, there really is no point in worrying. Worry when there's something to worry about, but don't pre-worry. It's a waste of your energy. But that's kind of a male-female way, I think, of responding to things.
It's so funny that you mentioned about worrying, because in my show last week, I was just talking about that, because I have this thing where, like, so many people worry about things that may or may not ever happen. And then if it doesn't happen, you think about all that wasted energy that you did worrying about it,
Now I'm older, I try my best, to be like that, like, hey, c'est la vie. And, jokingly, when I was younger with Mike, and I touched on children, when Mike was diagnosed early, so it questioned our fertility. And then, as it turned out, I developed the fertility problem, which I won't bore everybody with, but it was because I had an appendicitis operation when I was 19, rendered me infertile. I always thought it was going to be Mike, that was part of the problem. So we then embarked on a very tough. We must have been quite bad in previous lives, because we then embarked on a very tough IVF journey, in vitro journey. So we've been, as a couple, we have this incredibly privileged life, because we have all these amazing people, especially in America, who follow us, and it gives us the gift to go and travel. But we've also had some incredible roller coasters of, family was everything to us. Having children was everything. When we found out that it wasn't going to be simple, it maybe wasn't ever going to happen. Again, those kind of relationships can either pull you apart or pull you together. And luckily for us, it pulled us together. And we now have 2 gorgeous sons called Dylan and Evan. And they're musicians themselves. And Dylan's coming on the road with us to America when we embark on our we're coming out in May for, I think on the last count, 47 shows in the United States.
Nice.
Dylan will be accompanying us and part of the road crew and running the show.
See, that's so cool. And I love that you shared what you did, because so many people, they look at people that are in bands or on TV or radio or what have you, and they see what is shown to them or what their perception is. But everybody's just normal people that go through good, bad, roller coaster. It's just a different roller coaster. That's all.
Absolutely, Dean. We're all human. We all bleed in the same way. And, I think Mike and I are both from sort of working class backgrounds in North Wales. And we've always we've always shared our journeys. I think we've maybe held back on going public sometimes with our cancer journeys, just because with me, we didn't quite know where the journey was going to go. With Mike, the same. And then, so I can honestly say to people, I find it's better if you share. Generally, human beings are incredibly kind and empathetic and want to help you. When I actually came clean and told everybody what was going on, sometimes people are embarrassed or ashamed about a cancer diagnosis, or they think it's something that they've done or the life they've led. And I always try and say that has nothing to do with it. You just people just get bad luck, and our bad luck has been cancer, but I guess we've seen it as good luck in a way. You know, like I keep saying, we run a charity called Love, Hope, Strength, and it's a line of a song that Mike wrote when he was a young man in his 20s. The song Strength, that was very popular in America. Give me love, give me hope, give me strength. And little did Mike realize how significant the songline would become
Right.
to him during his adult life. And we've gone on to, you know, do amazing things with Love, Hope, Strength, because our just burning desire for some reason is to just try and help others who follow in our footsteps. Because, you know, when I was that young kid of 29, when I was told my husband had leukemia, my world, like, my world fell apart. But all I wanted to do was Google quickly, you know, someone who's survived leukemia and is having a happy life. And
well, there you go.
I couldn't really find many stories, if I'm honest. And so I wanted to put our story out there to say, you know, hopefully we can give you a little bit of hope that you can go. And yes, our life can be incredibly glamorous, and we have a wonderful life because of rock and roll. But I just want to share it. And yeah, we've done a couple of documentaries for the BBC where we've opened the doors into our home, and they've seen me crying. You know, they've seen me with my boobs out being checked over by my consultant, just to say, look, we're all human. It's okay to be not okay. But at the end of the day, yeah, I'm happy to report with our charity that there's more and more good stories now. You know, I can mentor a lot of women going through breast cancer and bring them through the other side. I see lots of people being diagnosed with leukemia and going on to live long and happy lives. That's I often think, yeah, that cancer should be maybe rebranded with a different name, because I think sometimes mentally it still floors people, that word. Whereas, you know, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer and thinking how my children were only 9 and 12, and they were kind of used to cancer. You know, their dad had cancer since they were born. But I was mentored by another woman who I didn't know that well, and she just said to me, look, why don't you just not mention the word cancer? And I was like, oh, okay.
That's what I would do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's what I did. My kids have come through relatively unscathed. I just said, Mum's got a lump, you know, Mum's going to the hospital to get rid of the lump. She's going to take medicine to get rid of the lump. Might make her hair fall out. And I think as long as they would see me getting upset, they'd see me with my wig on, they'd see me pull my wig off, they'd see me bald. Just tried to make it. I said, look, you know, we're like cars. Sometimes the hubcaps fall off, but it's the car stops. But don't panic. You know, sometimes we can get the car restarted.
And it is those words and your inner vocabulary to yourself, because, I mean, basically, that word cancer just has no positive connotation to the word itself.
Absolutely,
and the other words that they use, like sick and disease, and it's like, I've had 2 heart attacks, okay? And
really?
I don't look at myself as sick. I don't look at myself at, like they like to say, you have cardiac disease. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying that. You know? And
people would look at you in a different way, wouldn't they, if you use that word, cardiac disease?
Right, exactly.
Yourself, yeah.
And even for myself, saying it to myself, it's like a different type of feeling. And I think what a lot of people, like you said before, you said, like, you never think it's going to happen to you. You know, it's like one day you're like really healthy, or so you think, and you're living your life, and the next day it just changes forever. And people don't realize that, like, even what you've been going through lately is like every day you have to wonder if today's the day, you know. It's like, so it's like, to have that positive attitude, I think it's a necessity, because if you think you're sick, if you think you're diseased, if you think all these words, you know, you're going to live life in that way, opposed to going out and just living life to the fullest, you know, and enjoying what you have instead of worrying about what you may not have anymore.
Oh, so much so. You know, you were saying it as we first started our interview. You and I are older now. We're actually around about the same age, and it's that advice, isn't it, that you could give to your younger self, that I still think now it's the fact that I'm a mother, you know, and how to give advice to people coming through. You can't, because you've got to live the life, haven't you? So as you're older, you definitely realize that, you know, if there's people that you fall out with, you're better walking away. Have no toxicity in your life. You can't have that attitude when you're young, because you're making your way and you have to put up with people that you don't like and to make your way. It's just the way life goes.
Yeah.
You know?
Or,
Yeah,
or like,
you can
I
be
was,
a little bit more choosy.
yeah, and I was just having a conversation with my son yesterday, and I'm like, you know, at this point in my life, I eat extremely healthy and I'm very active. I'm not going to do all that stuff, which I don't even really want to do, you know,
Yeah,
type of thing. Like, people don't realize sometimes when you're picky eating at places, that's even annoying too, because people think, oh, you know, like you want to do that, like you want to be that way. And I was
yeah,
like, I'm not going to take all that work that I'm doing and ruin it by getting upset at somebody or getting in an argument. I'm just going to walk away.
yeah.
Whereas when I was younger,
You'd have
then
argued.
I would walk towards them,
Yeah.
you know. And it's
And life
like
would have been boring, obviously, without a few arguments. And
right,
that's kind of who
exactly.
you are. And sometimes there's moments for confrontation and having a good old. But yeah, I think as you get older, there's certain people possibly that you care less about. So, and that's not sounding unkind. That's positive. You're just knowing who you are. And the older you get, hopefully, it's the way it works, isn't it? You become less of a people pleaser. You
Yeah.
want to please the people that you really love, but you care less to please the people that maybe you don't really care about.
Well, and you also realize when you go through stuff like this that there's a lot less people on your side than you thought, that you were always so busy people pleasing that you never paid attention that they weren't reciprocating as far as a synergistic relationship. And that's what
Dean, I
I think.
really enjoy being less of a people pleaser. It's
I
fantastic.
know, right? But
Yeah,
that's what's really cool about your event that you just did, your retreat that we're doing
yeah,
again in 2025,
yeah. I want some
because
Americans to come.
yeah, because it gives you a chance to bond with other people and everybody to bond together with people that understand what you're going through, number
Yeah.
one,
Yeah,
and
and I'm sure you
people.
find that having had a heart attack, you know, with breast cancer, I've got amazing friends, amazing family, but thank God most of them haven't gone through breast cancer. So they can only understand so far. And then
Yes.
they nod along, but they don't really understand. And that's not their fault at all. And they're still incredibly helpful. The retreat came about, and you're sitting in front of my lovely chapel in North Wales there. The chapel, just to give the listeners some sense of what the chapel is all about. Mike and I purchased the chapel. It's in the village. It's all very authentic. It's in the village where Mike Peters was born. I'm from the
Mm.
next town, and it's a beautiful chapel that was a fully functioning worshipping chapel up until we bought it. People in our village heard that we were looking for a space, and as the congregation dwindled, as is happening so much across the United Kingdom, that there was a need to sell the chapel. So they knocked on our
Mm.
door literally and said, "We heard you were looking for a space. Would you buy the chapel?" So that they knew they could
Wow.
trust us. You know, we live in the village. We would never do anything awful with it. And so we turned it into our studio and our recording space, and we've made films in there. It's been a very, very creative hub. But during lockdown, obviously we couldn't tour. We'd always planned to eventually convert this beautiful space, which is situated opposite a 70-foot waterfalls in a tiny little picturesque Welsh village.
Wow.
And where we live, Mike and I live just up the road with our kids and our golden retriever, Ziggy Stardust, and it's all pretty idyllic. You know, it's where Mike and I are from, so we know everyone. We went to school with them from the age of 2 or 3. It's like friends reunited wherever you go, and we love it, and that's what always draws us back here. But we developed the chapel into these 5 beautiful apartments, and And they're used for lots of things. People just book in to come on vacation. But as time elapsed, I'm a massive follower of yoga. We were talking about, being present in the moment. I would love if the whole world did yoga, it would all be a very different world. But that's a whole other interview.
and I'm here in Costa Rica right now, and I'm doing yoga while I'm here because it's a yoga mecca. So,
Oh, I'm a little bit jealous there. I'd love to come and do yoga in Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah, you should definitely come down.
That's on my little list.
There it is.
But so, yeah, we had a lot of yoga retreats, yoga teachers who came and stayed in the chapel. And then we'd send them up to the little community hall because we didn't have a studio in the chapel. And then this one particular yoga teacher said, I've seen this studio you have in the back. Well, the studio actually belonged to Mike. And because we developed the whole place into apartments, he wasn't able to stick on his guitar and make as much loud music as he used to because we'd had people staying there. So long story short, and Mike was very, very good about it. He realized he's very good at letting things go, Mike, and he realized that it was time to move on. And so we emptied his studio, and his beautiful studio is now a yoga studio and a Pilates studio. And it's also the old Sunday school. So it's a beautiful space with all the original beams in there. And we've gone on, I opened a yoga studio 4 months ago, and we now host regular weekly yoga lessons. I'm trying to turn on my whole village. We have men on the mats on Tuesday night because they just want to come in all guys and not have us women in there. That's fine. All learning to be more flexible. And from that, I just thought, right, I can use this space to a good cause. So once a year, and this is where I hope you're going to help me, Dean, to find some people out there. In this particular retreat, it is about breast cancer. So anyone out there who's been through breast cancer, if you would like to, you can nominate yourself, or you can get somebody else to nominate you. And basically, you just come and stay with me for 3 days in the chapel. It's all for free. You get fed. You get wined and dined. We go to our sister. I bought the village pub, by the way, about 18 months ago. It's very surreal. Yeah, I've got the chapel, and next door I've got the pub. Everybody thought I was bonkers, but it's all worked out well. When Mike is home, he comes and DJs. It's turned out that Mike Peters is an incredible DJ. Who knew?
Wow.
So, we have all the village pouring out their doors on Friday night, and it's called Friday Night at the Red. So we bring in all these breast cancer survivors. They come and stay in the chapel, and then we go next door. We rock at the Red, and we just spoilt them silly because they deserve to be spoiled. They've all gone collectively through a very harrowing journey. Some of them were still going through chemotherapy. Some were survivors for 5 years. We were all at different stages of our journeys, and we laughed, we cried together. We had the most amazing time. It was very therapeutic. They didn't want to leave, if I'm honest. They just wanted.
I went. Listen, I'm thinking right now I should be moving to Wales because
maybe I have to do cardiac disease retreats.
What's funny about that is I've been talking about something like that because both my heart attacks happened after surfing.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So basically, to the end of 2017, I brought my son and family to Hawaii. I was going surfing. Hour later, had a heart attack.
Oh my goodness!
And what they did in Hawaii, their medical system is like the worst in the U.S. And that's saying a lot. And, they basically caused a second heart attack. And so I went through a year of recovery, and I was not feeling it over the year. And like, seriously, like you were talking about before, during that year, I felt things I never felt in my life because it's like one day you're invincible and then you're not, and that's exactly what it felt like. And then, year later, the cardiologist in Florida released me, you're good, you're back, you can go back to normal activity. I decided to celebrate and go to Costa Rica and surf. And what happened, I had a massive heart attack surfing.
Oh my word.
But it wasn't from the surfing, it was from what basically, they put a stent in, they misplaced it, floated out of my main artery and healed over during that year time. So then I, went through another year recovery. I came and got cleared. I came back to that's a whole nother story. We don't even have time. Costa Rica took such great care of me. The
Really?
best doctors, the best people. These people here were the most helpful, gracious people I ever experienced in my life. They treated me 100% for free here because my insurance company would not give them approval to do a life or death procedure because it takes 48 to 72 hours to get an approval on an insurance claim. So, but I went through that year recovery, came back. I decided to come back to Costa Rica, and I went surfing, didn't get a heart attack, didn't die. And then went back to Florida, and 3 days later we were locked down for COVID.
Oh, really? Wow, gosh.
Yeah. So
a real journey. So it'd be great for you to gather together with, people maybe your age group who have been through it, to give them the confidence to go back to that active life after going through
exactly. That's the whole point, because I also read something. This is what gave me the idea.
Yeah.
In France, they do not treat heart attacks with medication. And I'm not big about big pharma at all. So any medication I don't have to take, I'm fine with. They treat it with surfing. They actually they diagnose, they give a prescription to them to go surfing. So I'm thinking,
love it.
What a phenomenal idea that would be to arrange surf trips for people that have had heart attacks as their way of getting healthier, but also, like you, bonding with other people that understand what they're going through every day. Because like you said, breast cancer, unless you have had it, I don't care how much you've even been exposed to it, you can't understand what that person's going through unless you've been there. And that's what's beautiful about your retreat is people can see that there's other people. Because when you go through these things, sometimes during that beginning phase, especially, you think nobody else knows what you're going through, but there are people out there that do.
And that's why I'm glad, to be honest, Dean, that I could bring people face to face. I mentor people a lot by text and by email, but I'm not a major fan of a lot of the groups that exist out there because, and everyone's doing their best, but I think naturally we can all talk each other down into a bit of a panic. Whereas the beauty of the retreat, as we called it, it's a retreat, which is a treat, was that
I love it.
There was put the screens away. We did yoga, Pilates, hiking, dancing, music. And then I think the icing on the cake was we surprised them. Mike was kind enough to come in we all congregated in the penthouse space, which is very rock and roll. It's a beautiful space. And then next minute, like slow-mo, Mike walked down the corridor.
I love it. I'm getting chills right now.
Yeah, they loved it. There was lots of tears. And because I think for them as women, because obviously men can get breast cancer too, but it was just women on this retreat, they really related to Mike being the carer role. And he sat there and he performed a song called Heroin, which is what he wrote while he was in the hospital with me when I was getting my chemotherapy, and he dedicated it all to them. Not a dry eye in the penthouse.
When Mike was first diagnosed with leukemia, Beryl was by his side as one of his nurses as well. And so it's ultra special.
Made it through together, don't we? No, but it's great that you've all been able to come here today and sharing your experiences that you've all been through together. Really admire you for what you've been through, and as a carer for Jules, I can relate to some of the challenges you have to go through, because it's quite a brutal challenge that you've all had to face, and to see you all here today on the road to recovery is very impressive, and very proud of you all for making it through. And I'll sing you a song before I go now. This is a song I wrote for Jules when she was going through the surgery and the radiation and the chemotherapy, and it was a very challenging time. Jules was in hospital having a surgery that lasted hours and hours and hours. I was pacing the corridors and just started writing these words into my phone, and ever since I've always, Jules has been my heroine, just like you've been heroines to other people in your lives who've seen what you've been through and understand and appreciate the steps you've made to stay alive. It's called Heroine. My love, closer to me than God, gives me what faith does not. My love is alive. She flows through my veins like blood, heart beating like a drum. My love is near to me. My love, my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. My love is alive. She comes when I am so far away, when there's nothing left to say. My love speaks to me. She aches when all of my bones they break, when tears stream down my face. My love is there for me. My love, my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. My love is alive. My love is closer to me than God. My love gives me what my faith does not. My love is alive. My love is alive. My love is alive. My love is alive. And she's my heroine, heroine. My heroine, heroine. My love is alive.
I was watching the video and I was having a hard time getting through the video. Okay, I mean it's just amazing what you're doing, and
Really, I think everyone, look at you. We all do our best, don't we? You're not doing it for praise, or you're just doing it from the heart. And I'm lucky to have this beautiful space, and sometimes it's not busy, sometimes it is. I'd rather open it up to people as and when we can, and that's what we want to do for next January. And we had a girl from New Jersey who actually flew over especially for the retreat.
I saw that.
She's called Lee, and she, because I'm very open and honest about my experiences on social media, so she was an Alarm fan, and she found herself diagnosed with breast cancer a few years ago, and she suddenly remembered my blogs and my opening up about what I was going through, and so she sort of reread them as someone that was living through it herself, and reached out to me, and so we connected that way and just communicated via email. And then she came to a gig, and then it all rolled out, and I said, I think you need to nominate yourself for this. So that's what we say: nominate yourself, ask someone else to nominate you, or if there's people out there that know of somebody who thinks they deserve to come over, we'd more than welcome Americans into our little village. We love welcoming Americans into our little village.
I love it. And I'm a Jersey boy. I'm originally from Jersey.
Are you Jersey boy? Oh, we love New Jersey.
Yeah, see? And you know what's funny is I just met somebody recently.
You haven't got the accent.
Say that again?
You haven't got the accent.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of killed it when I was younger to try and not sound like I'm from anywhere type of thing. But if I get around Jersey people, it comes out. And certain words like water and dog and coffee and those are like automatic type of thing. But I just met somebody recently I was hanging out with who's from Jersey in the UK, and so it was kind of,
Jersey. Island, yeah.
So it was kind of cool. We were talking about that, because you wouldn't believe how many people in actual New Jersey don't realize why it's called New Jersey.
No, I'm sure. Well, because we all just accept where we are, don't we?
Right?
Again, if you started reading into everything, it would probably send you doolally, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. So let's tell everybody about the foundation and how they can connect and help with the foundation,
Yeah.
because the
Okay.
foundation covers a lot of different things and a lot of different ways that you
Yeah.
help people.
Yeah, Love, Hope, Strength, like I say, was from a line in the song that Mike wrote as a young man. Strength, and the line is, give me love, give me hope, give me strength. And when Mike was diagnosed, Mike wanted to come when Mike finally got to the point where he had to have chemotherapy, he managed to avoid having a stem cell transplant. But when he was diagnosed halfway through chemotherapy, frustrating for me as his wife and carer, he announced that he wanted to come to Austin, Texas to perform at South by Southwest. And this was like, in the very early days when South by Southwest was just a sort of very emerging festival. I felt frustrated. I wanted to stay at home and just get him well. But Mike turned to me and said, I won't get well if I can't keep playing my music. So I was like, okay. So I reached out to a radio DJ that I knew, not a DJ, sorry, someone linked to radio, a guy called Richard Reese. And he was in Austin, Texas. And he said, right, I said, I need to know where the hospitals are so that I've got a plan. This is me always second guessing. And he said, I can do better than that. I can put you in touch with someone that's just come through a stem cell transplant. He's a leukemia survivor. His name is James Chippendale. And that's what he did. And James he was from Austin, and he picked us up from the airport, didn't know us, bit of an alarm fan. And oh my goodness, he took us under our wings. He took us to Dallas Hospital for a second opinion. He took us to see Lance Armstrong's doctors, and he just strengthened me. He just made me feel like I could be ready for the fight. He's this gorgeous, handsome guy. It gave me confidence that we could maybe get through this. And because he was a leukemia survivor, he'd already started a charity himself, a foundation. I just met up with him actually in Dallas 2 weeks ago, and it was incredible. Nice. He's like our brother, and we founded the charity together. It was mainly founded by Mike and him because they were both leukemia. Well, Mike was going through the chemotherapy at the time, but they're both leukemia survivors, and so he was the American side and me and Mike with the British side. So we said, well, we'd like to climb a mountain in Wales to raise funds for our hospital that's taking such good care of Mike, and then subsequently such good care of me. And then James, in that classic Texan style, said, well, I think we should go even higher. We were like, what do you mean? And he's like, I think we should do Base Camp Everest. So we were a perfect match. The confidence of James and everything that he brought with him from growing up in Dallas, and then our maybe slightly more reserved manner being raised in the UK and in Wales. And we established Love, Hope, Strength together. James came over and stayed in the chapel, funny enough. And we stood, this is before we developed it into apartments, and we stood at the altar. And James just saw a T-shirt that was lying around with Love, Hope, Strength on the T-shirt. And he said, that's what we need to name the charity. And voila, the charity was born. And we did climb Snowdon, which is our highest mountain. And we've gone to climb it every year. And we've raised... When I say we, it's not we, it is we, but with a massive team of volunteers who join us and hike. And you know what? We turn it into fun. We try and joke that our charity is like a sexy charity. We don't want it all to be too serious. Come along, hike with us, have a beer with us, live life with us, however the way you want to live your life, raise a bit of money with us, but have an experience of a lifetime. So that's really how we've modeled Love, Hope, Strength. We just go off on treks and people register onto the treks. If you go to lovehopestrength.co.uk or lovehopestrength.org, you can see this year we come straight back from America, and then we head straight off to Spain to trek the El Camino way. Last year, we went to the Alps, rocked the Alps. The year before, when poor Mike was in hospital, I left him behind. And I took 50 people with me to the Sahara. We have loads of people a lot of people from across America who join us. We've done Base Camp Everest, Kilimanjaro, Machu Picchu. But you know what I love about it? It brings people together, and it's a real leveler. You know, you step away from the comforts, whatever comforts it is that you have in your home, and you're there more with a sleeping bag. You might be in a dormitory, in a tent. It strip it all back, and I think it does us all the world of good. It's like a reset every year. So I try and nag and cajole everyone I meet to come and join us, and they generally do, because it's like, you know, it's sitting around the campfire, guitars out. It's incredible. It's life-changing, and we have a brilliant time, but we raise a bit of money together and we help change the lives of people less fortunate than ourselves.
I love it. I love it's given me chills, because that's what I dig about your organization and your retreat. It's like something different. It's not, it's creating something, an experience that people will never forget. And that's
well, it's a short life, isn't it, Dean? And I want people to live it big, live it loud, if that's the kind of thing that they want to do. And if you like music, if you're affected, you don't even have to be affected by cancer. You know, you can do it for someone else that, you know, it's not just cancer survivors. But we're also, you know, a big part of what we do is encouraging people to register to the bone marrow donor registry, because Mike, you know, all through his life has been faced with potentially needing a stem cell transplant. And fortunately for us, so far, touch and wood, he hasn't had to have that. He's had lots and lots of relapses, but the new drugs that have come through have been able to rebuild him. But whereas James Chippendale, our partner in the charity, he had to have a full transplant. So we try and encourage people, we run a program called Get on the List. So when people come to our gigs, or our other friends who are musicians, I mentioned Billy Duffy earlier, you know, we get everyone to come. Billy's come on a lot of our treks. He went on to be diagnosed with prostate cancer himself a few years ago. So he's now part of our little group of survivors. And we just encourage people. It's a swab test, and you can potentially save somebody's life. You know, James, our co-founder, his life was saved unbelievably by a German guy, literally because this German guy happened to register to the bone marrow registry, and James was dying effectively. And if they hadn't have found him a donor, he was a young, fit man, knocked down in his prime with leukemia. But because this wonderful German man registered many years previously, they suddenly, boom, found a match. And his name is Klaus, and Klaus saved James's life. And James travels from America to visit him in Germany and to give thanks to him. Without Klaus, there would be no James Chippendale, and the world would not be as an exciting place. So, but we're heading back to Everest as well, Dean, I'd like to point out. So we first went to Everest in 2008, I think. I'm not very good on my figures. I was able to go because thankfully I'd just given birth to our second child. After I mentioned our fertility battle, we had a huge battle to bring children into the world. And Mike disappeared with all his musical fans, musical pals, Slim Jim Phantom from the Stray Cats, Glenn Tilbrook from Squeeze. It was a phenomenal trip to Base Camp Everest, and they disappeared for 3 weeks. So we've decided it's the 20th year anniversary in 4 years' time. So we're getting everybody together and taking a big group, the road back to Everest. So we're excited.
I love it. And so let's tell everybody too how they can nominate themselves or somebody else to the 2025 retreat, because it's probably going to be bigger and better than this year, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll probably have to turn it into a week's stay at some point. You know, it's a funny old thing. It's the year 2024, but in many ways where we live, you know, half the time we're jet setting all around the world in all these glamorous places. And don't get me wrong, my village is very glamorous because it has a waterfall and it has great people in it. But it's, you know, my 80-year-old mother, my 83-year-old father, my 17-year-old son. It's a bit like the best family wedding you're ever going to go to. So it is quite a unique situation. I think if you look, there aren't many musicians rock bands who own a pub and a chapel in the place where they were born. So, you know, all of that lends itself to quite a unique situation. So every Friday night, you'll imagine us this Friday night, we'll be heading down to the Red and socializing with everyone. People that, you know, I was born with, that Mike was born with. It's pretty special. We feel very fortunate to come from such a place where there's a strong community. We have strong roots. You know, we couldn't move even if we wanted to, and we don't want to, but we have a very, very strong, there's a word in Welsh called hiraeth, and it means a desire, a return, a longing for where you come from. And Mike and I are lucky to have that. So
I love it.
I think when people come on these retreats, they tend to fall in love with the locals, and the locals fall in love with the retreaters. So that's why nobody wants to leave. It's a bit like Fantasy Island, you know, it's a little village. No one wants to go home.
I love it.
My passion is, you know, I'd like to do it for, I'm definitely committing to doing it every year, probably the end of January, because I know that I'll be home around that time. So if you want to nominate yourself, please do. All you have to do is email alarmcalling@mac.com, alarmcalling@mac.com, and or go to thealarm.com and you'll see the email address there. And just write a little description about what you've been through and why you'd like to come. And then we just literally study. I have an amazing woman called Kirsty who helps me run the charity, and she's phenomenal, a survivor of her own. She's had a benign tumor in her brain, but is living life to the full. So between us, you know, we try and fit everyone in. And this time, you know, they're literally, apart from 2 or 3 people, we had 22 people staying, and I only knew 2 or 3 of them, and we all just the emails I've had since of how it's helped them get through. I would love them to all just to be able to keep coming back each year. You know, who knows? I'd quite like to do it for leukemia survivors as well. So I'll see how that goes. We're extremely busy. You know, even though we're older rockers now, we seem to be in more demand than ever, and we just like living our life, traveling. You know, Mike's just been commissioned to write his own book. And I've actually also been commissioned to write my own side of the story. So we're both in 1986 right now. It's quite funny.
Nice. It is true. The older rockers, they seem to work a lot more than the younger rockers nowadays.
Good work ethic. Yeah, we know how to work hard.
That's right.
We come from a generation, you know, the Alarm, there was lots of knocking on doors. There was lots of rejection. There was lots of rebuilding. John Lennon died in 1980. It was like return from London back to North Wales, rethink, rebuild, right, back out on the road. You got a gig with the Stray Cats. You got to work it. You got to build that following. And that's how all those kind of bands, Simple Minds, U2, the Alarm. And again, you know, the ones that were fortunate enough to be appreciated in America, as the Alarm have been very, very fortunate. But, you know, it's all those years of coming to radio stations. Mike and I we never saw it as a grind. Like I know some members of bands do. We loved coming into radio stations, and you know, we've so many of the jocks from 1983 onwards. We met with a very famous DJ called George Gimmark from Dallas. He was the first guy to play the Alarm, and Bono was late. So Bono is a iconic interview of Mike and Bono. And we met him in Dallas 2 weeks ago. How nice is that?
Nice.
Yeah, in a record store with our kids. And our kids were going off to find the Alarm. You know, you do that trick. You find the record and you put it to the front of the... it's something we've always done. All the Alarm fans do it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and George, that was 1983, I think, was the interview, and here we are, nearly 40 years later. No, over 40 years later. What am I talking about? It's the 40th Alarm anniversary. So,
wow.
40 years later, meeting up in a record store in Dallas, talking about music, because that's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about, and man, I love your music. But like I said in the very beginning, and I'm going to say here at the end, I love this stuff even better because what you're doing for people and the mindset you're giving people and the help and the hope and the love and the strength and everything is just absolutely amazing. And
Oh, thank you, Dean.
definitely anybody out there, if you want to nominate somebody, if you want to nominate yourself, you owe it to yourself for this experience of a lifetime. And man, I don't even know what to say to you. Like I'm going to be in tears thanking you for doing this for other people that need it so much, and
Thank you
especially
for helping me to share the message, and anybody out there who is struggling, like I said, we've been talking about positivity, but trust me, I know what it's like to feel little bit down in the dumps. So if I can ever help, you only have to, I'm only an email away, alarmcalling@mac.com, regardless of the nomination. Just if you want a little pick me up or someone to make you feel like, there is a future, you know where to find me. I'm always here to help.
Well, yes, you are. And I hope that we see a lot more of you and you help so many more people, and people are going to love this. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for the great music. And thank you for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you for having me. Hope to see you in Florida or Costa Rica sometime soon.
Yeah, or the UK. I'll be
Or
there in
Wales.
June and August for festivals. So
Okay, drop me a line.
absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Hey, this is Jules Peters, and you're listening to the Pipeman at W4CY. I'm running a retreat in 2025 in Dyserth, North Wales. Please send your email and nominate yourself or another person to alarmcalling@mac.com. For all you breast survivors out there, please come and join me for the Treat Retreat in Wales, January 2025.